Yeah, you knew I had to cover this at some point. So what was considered to be one of the most anticipated movies within the MCU, Captain Marvel is now officially the most controversial out of the bunch. And by that, I'm not talking about the movie itself, but rather the controversy surrounding the movie. To the point where Captain Marvel is very well the last Jedi for the MCU. And there are several reasons on as to why people are kinda against this movie at this point, so I'll try and break it down piece by piece and mainly focus on the main topics. First of all, we do have the trailers as well as some of the marketing behind Captain Marvel. Because not only are all of the trailers the exact same, but people don't seem to be as interested about this movie as, let's say, Avengers Endgame or even Spider-Man Far From Home. And while I'm still going to see the movie regardless, there isn't really anything exciting for me to see about this movie in general outside of the fact that it is going to have some ties to Avengers Endgame. And to me it just comes across as one of the more plain MCU films. And I do hate to be political here, and I will get into more of that in a little bit, but clear as day, when you look at the trailers, they are clearly pandering towards the female demographic. And there's nothing wrong with attracting a new audience, but to me, whenever you look at the trailers and whatnot, they are very in your face about it, and you can tell that this is going to be a feminist film. And based on some of the early reviews that I've heard about, this movie is too in your face with female empowerment, and pretty much degrades white men, which just isn't right at all. Now the reason why it worked for Black Panther instead of Captain Marvel is because they knew exactly how to play their cards right. Yes, their main demographic for that film in particular were more for people of colour, but in reality Black Panther at its core was very inclusive and it was welcoming to pretty much everyone. Plus never once in the movie's marketing did they ever beat you over the head with the fact where Black Panther is the first black superhero in the MCU who will have his own standalone film. And it does help that the movie itself was phenomenal in its own right and never once degraded a certain group of people. And in my eyes, this movie was very worthy of all 3 Oscars that it won. Now we can finally move on to the elephant in the room regarding the entire controversy surrounding Brie Larson and her words. Where she does preach that she wanted more diversity revolving around interviews and whatnot, as well as a snidey remark about her not caring about a 40-year-old white dude hating on a wrinkle of time. As to which many people have deemed Brie Larson racist and sexist, and while I do agree in that Brie Larson's words were very much taken out of context, I do understand on as to why people did react the way they did and pretty much misinterpreting her words. Because first of all, Brie Larson is a very vocal person, and she does like to have her gender made crystal clear, and because of her poor choice of words, that had led to the main demographic, of course being white dudes, being understandably alienated and pissed off, mainly due to the fact that Brie Larson did come across as ignorant. And since then, Brie Larson had no other choice but to do damage control and justify her words, and pretty much apologise for those said comments. And speaking of damage control, many reports have indicated that the very few reviewers were pretty much bribed by Marvel and Disney to not say a bad thing about Captain Marvel and give the movie good reviews. And usually I don't believe in rumours such as these, but I feel like this one in particular does hold some weight. Because at the time of this recording, Captain Marvel currently sits at 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. But then when you look at the general consensus, as well as some of the early reviews, they don't seem to be all that positive, and it almost seems like they're trying to not step on some toes here, which to me is just too weird. And I don't claim to be the biggest expert when it comes down to box office or anything like that, but whenever people talk about the fact that Captain Marvel is going to open big at the box office, I feel like people have been doing so many miscalculations because in the past MCU films, they usually open up in other countries such as the UK or Australia before they even manage to hit the US market. And so sometimes when people do some box office predictions, they are relatively lower because of the fact that they are split in other countries. But in the case of Captain Marvel, the reason why it is that much higher is because the film is going to be open pretty much around the same time worldwide. So automatically the projections are going to be all over the place for the film. So in the end, is all of this hatred towards Captain Marvel justified? Well, to an extent. Because there seems to be some sort of shadiness behind the movie, and not only that, it is very pandering towards the female demographic. But at the same time, I do feel like the hatred is over-exaggerated to the point where people just want to see Captain Marvel fail. And even though my hype for the movie has dropped significantly, I am still trying my very best to keep an open mind and hope for the best, because unlike some who are expecting this movie to be the MCU's first flop, I don't want to see any film fail. So what are your personal thoughts on the entire controversy surrounding Captain Marvel? Do you think that it's somewhat justified, or do you think that this is over exaggerated to the point where it's just pathetic? And also, are you still even excited into seeing the movie? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.